My name is Chirag Bhakta. I am the Community Engagement Coordinator for Mission Housing. I've been doing organizing work in the neighborhood for about 3 years now, and I'm a born and raised San Franciscan.
Could you tell us, with your experience, how people of color are being discriminated against in accessing equal housing, especially in the low-income areas?
Fair housing laws exist throughout the country, but nonetheless, there is discrimination, as in every aspect of American society. Discrimination, it also exists within housing. In the Mission District specifically, it's historically been a neighborhood of working class immigrants, mainly Latino immigrants in this city. It's kind of been a haven and a sanctuary neighborhood for a lot of people escaping poverty, escaping war-torn regions in Central and South America. But nowadays, it's the place that they came for haven and sanctuary has become unaffordable and oftentimes unwelcoming to them because of gentrification and displacement.
Do you think the .com boom has a lot to play in it as far as attracting people who are supposedly higher income earners into displacing people of color?
I would definitely say that the current economic boom in San Francisco has played a major role in the gentrification and displacement crisis. There really is an economic boom only for a certain segment of the population, but for the rest of the people in San Francisco, it's actually an economic crisis because they don't have anywhere else to go, and they're being pushed out of their either rent-controlled or barely affordable units. And so that influx of capital and people who are making a lot more money are, first of all, willing to pay a lot more rent than the people who are here, who are low-income working class. But on top of that, if they want to live somewhere, they want to live in the Mission. The Mission is hip, the Mission is young, the Mission has bars, and it has the scene for people. And so a lot of the development that is coming into the city is also happening in this neighborhood. And to be honest, a lot of it's already happened in this neighborhood. Gentrification isn't beginning in the Mission. It isn't happening. It's already happened. And so there are a few pockets left of very strong low-income working class people in the neighborhood. There are a few pockets left that gentrification hasn't yet hit, but it'd be hard to find anyone in the neighborhood who hasn't been personally affected by what's happening in San Francisco.
With all this redevelopment in the Mission District, do you feel like you, as people of color, especially Latinas or mixed people, do you feel like you guys are being pushed out of the Mission and that maybe police are targeting you and you feel like you're now a stranger in your own district?
They ain't got to deal with shit. They don't got to deal with the real struggle we got to deal with. Across from my apartment complex, they said they were going to build a low-income housing, low-income market, okay? For people that can't afford, Safeway or, regular grocery places. They're making it to condominiums for rich people.
$1 million condos, right?
$1 million condos for rich people.
They're popping up everywhere in the Mission, like where beautiful houses used to be, but then now they don't even care. They don't care about it. They just don't.
I'm Rayshawn Jones from Bayview Hunters Point. I'm 19 years old.
Do you feel what's going on in the Mission is a direct mirror of what's going on with the Bayview Hunters Point as far as redevelopment, kicking people of color out of their homes to make place for people who are so-called higher income earners?
Off tops, yeah. I think it's overly connected because these are the two, they're pretty close, Mission and Bayview, and they're two of the most quirky, I'll say. That's a word they like to use, quirky, urban. It's a little shifty, but they'll still come, and it's areas that are desirable because of the weather. San Francisco has shifty weather throughout every neighborhood. Mission and Bayview hottest every day. And I feel like it's prime. Like they want to buy it all up. They want to buy everything up to the projects. They're even working on development throughout the entire city to rebuild projects. But typically what we see with that happen is they kick residents out, and then the same residents don't always get back in. So I do think that Mission and Bayview are heavily connected, but I think the whole city is connected. I think Mayor Ed Lee got a lot to do with that shit. I think the police department's got a lot to do with that shit. I think gentrification, it go further than them just buying shit up. They taking over areas, they buying up the streets, they're buying up the shops, they're building their own shops, they're putting here what they want to see here. And so ultimately, when you don't see yourself in your neighborhood, you go elsewhere, you leave. So yeah, I do think it's connected. I think it's connected here, and I think it's connected not just with these two districts, with all the districts in the city, all the way up to Oakland, all the way up to Richmond, all the way up to Pinole.
So the targets for this, so-called reunification of a city are places of color, because it doesn't really happen in other Caucasian-heavy neighborhoods, correct?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as far as the projects, heavily Black, Latino, Asian. I mean, so we know who they're targeting. Lower income. These people can't afford to live in San Francisco. Medium rent is like $3,500 for a studio, for a one bedroom. That's medium rent. You know what I mean? That's impossible. That's impossible for somebody who even makes that to make. That's half of your income. So at the end of the day, when you don't see low income, when you don't see services for low income people, it's clear who they're targeting. Because too often in America, low income is synonymous with people of color. You know what I mean? You hear poor, you hear Black. You hear poor, you hear Mexican. You hear poor, you hear Asian. You don't think white. And so when they target low income, it's apparent who they're targeting, because 70% of the population of America is not poor. They're white. 70% of America is white, right? And just about 70% of Black people are poor, living in poverty, living below the poverty line. So at the end of the day, like, it's clear who they're targeting when they don't give services for low income. When there's not medical services for low-income people, when it's not mental health services for low-income people, when they close down things like, and I'm a psychology major, when they close down shit for people with mental issues, where do they go? To jail. All across the country.
That's true. Those
Yeah, all across the country, they shutting down mental institutions. So where do you go? To jail. Homeless people, they shutting down homeless shelters. Where do you go? To jail. So at the end of the day, when they target low-income people, yes, they are targeting Black people. Yes, they are targeting Latinos. Yes, they are targeting people of color. Yes, they are targeting trans people. Yes, they are targeting gay people. And almost, over 50% of LGBT youth is homeless. So yes, they are targeting minorities when they target low-income people, I believe.